Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders Offbeat.
It's Wednesday. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
You seem really happy today.
Are you ready to get humped?
This is jovial, jolly Dylan.
I feel good.
You
I
do?
feel good. Things are working out.
You're like Lizzo. You're just like feeling hella good.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel appreciative today. I appreciate what I have.
You're full of gratitude.
And I was thinking about how much I love my wife.
You do?
Yeah.
She's a lucky woman.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky that you took a chance on a guy like me.
Took a chance on just a poor old boy
Yeah.
from down around Shelby.
From down yonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm feeling good. I'm excited about our live show. It's just in a few days.
Oh, I'm pumped.
And I can't wait to people that are able to make it out. I cannot wait to see your face.
I can't wait to meet some of our listeners in person. Like, this is the best part of the live show.
Definitely. And Heather has some great stuff in store for us. We're just going to have a lot of fun, some drink, some good food. I mean, what else do you want?
I don't know. Maybe you will do one of your little dances for the crowd.
Ooh, I'm going to do my happy sandwich dance.
Yes.
I do when I make a signature series of sandwich.
Yeah, when you top it with a pickle and some like premium stone ground, like lusty mustard or something.
Just lightly toasted, hand-kneaded bread.
That's all you got to do to make this man excited is let him have a sandwich.
Okay, you're throwing me off track now. I can't keep thinking about the sandwich.
Well, it's been an interesting week in true crime news, Dylan.
Oh, man, it has. There's Gabby.
Yeah, the true crime community has been captivated by the story of Gabby Petito, the young woman on a van life tour, YouTuber, active on social media. Of course, she went missing on a road trip with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. I didn't know if his name was Laundrie or Landry, Dylan, but I've realized after watching a few news reports, it's Laundrie.
Okay.
And now he's missing. They have found a body today. They are actually performing the autopsy. Of course, we're recording this a little bit ahead of Wednesday. They are supposed to perform the autopsy today, so we should have results of that probably by the end of the week. Know more about her cause of death, her manner of death. And yeah, so right now her family, obviously they're reeling from this information. It seems to be kind of everything I think most of us suspected, that her fiance was likely involved.
Yes, I believe her suspected remains, and I'm really sad that we kind of figured this is how it was going to turn out, and it's so sad. You know, her family hoping and praying that she turns up, but it was discovered somewhere there in Wyoming, correct?
Yes, the Grand Tetons National Park.
Oh gosh,
some sort of underdeveloped campsite. Also, this week the FBI has pretty much raided the Laundrie family's home. I know they towed away a Mustang.
Yes, they did that live.
They suspect that perhaps his parents, he drove the Mustang to this park in Florida, this nature reserve where they've kind of been searching for him, and that perhaps his parents drove it back before reporting him missing.
You know,
they've seized a lot of electronics. There are some odd texts that have been released. One of those was actually from Gabby's phone to her mother about her grandfather, but instead of like calling him grandpa, grandfather, or whatever she called him, she was referring to him as Stan, which is his first name, which struck her mother as very odd because she would normally never refer to her grandfather as Stan.
You would certainly know what your child called their grandfather. And certainly there are some people out there that refer to him by their name if they're not real close. But then people typically have that pet name, Peepaw, Mamaw, whatever. Nana, Granddad.
Poppy.
Anything.
Right.
But his name. So I'm sure that would stand out for her family.
It's interesting, and watching it kind of unfold in real time. A lot of people, of course, there's a lot of critics out there like, oh, the true crime community is just sensationalizing this poor girl's death. And, I don't think it's really that. I think people are intrigued, and there have been some cases where some web sleuths have really been able to crack open, big cases and really put forth some good information. So I just think that, forget all the naysayers. If you're interested in Gabby's case, it's it's a unique situation. The fact that she was documenting her daily travels, I think that makes it more maybe compelling for some folks.
Well, there's a lot of information, and if you do look there, I looked a little bit at her Instagram, and I know people mold it and sometimes try to present this fake life, but she seemed genuinely happy. in her pictures and photos and everything she was
Well,
saying.
like a free spirit.
A free spirit. She was
Yeah.
having fun. This was a dream of hers, as far as I can tell, to do this kind of a trip. And I'm not obviously we don't know what happened, but there is a video of the police talking
Yes,
to
that's
them.
something else that's been released in the
Yeah.
last few days.
After
It's
their
some body cam footage
domestic event or whatever happened there
in Utah.
in Utah, and they were both did not want the other one to go to jail. You know, couples arguing, it happens. That's not totally a crazy thing, but it's pretty interesting that this guy thought this would be okay, that you could just come back across the country without your fiance and her property, her vehicle, and like nobody's going to say anything. I mean, this guy must be a dumbass.
He's either a dumbass or he's just really fucking like narcissistic.
And he's really cold.
That he's smarter than everyone in the room. He kind of strikes me as that guy. He reminds me so much of like a mini Chris Watts.
I could see that.
Right? There's just something about him. I get major Chris Watts vibes from this guy. Anyway, I know if you're a true crime fan, you've probably been following the case, so we won't spend any more time talking about it. And actually, this week, Dylan, we're going to dive into a topic that I find incredibly fascinating, and it is considered probably criminal.
Ooh, tell me more.
Okay, Dylan. So I don't know if this is kind of dorky, but I'll admit I'm kind of fascinated by the Old West.
I think a lot of people are for different reasons.
My grandpa grew up reading a lot of the like Louis L'Amour books. My dad was a big fan of those. Zane Grey. My son's name is Zane. Because my grandpa was a huge fan of Zane Grey, the author. I grew up watching all those old cowboy movies and westerns, of course, the Clint Eastwood films and John Wayne. I mean, that was like a big part of our household because my dad was really into that stuff.
Oh, so you're talking about even as far as back as the black and white ones, when you had like white men in brown face
Like High Noon.
playing the Indians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I grew up watching a lot of that stuff, and I've always found the history very fascinating. I mean, it's just so wild. Think about people loading up these pioneers in these wagons, a wagon train, going across country into unknown areas. You bring the whole family.
Everyone's armed.
I mean, it's just like, wow, what bravery these people would have to do that. I mean, I don't know if I would have the courage to travel into some unknown territory.
No, and could you imagine being the children of people like this, and this is what we're going to do. This is a chance to have a better future, and oftentimes always happens, they would get there and it wouldn't be quite what they thought.
Yeah, well, people were selling them, people who were already there. Of course, everybody's out to make a dime. You got a lot of scammers trying to sell them this idea. You're going to go out here, you're going to have this, hundreds of acres of fertile land. You're going to farm. You're going to be an instant millionaire.
Yeah.
And then they get out there and they're in like a fucking dust bowl.
Yeah, they're in the Dust Bowl, or they're in a very dangerous territory with their entire family, underprepared, because it takes a hard man and woman to make it on a regular day back then, let alone out in the wilds of the countryside.
So I thought today, I know you were a huge fan of the show Deadwood.
Oh,
on
I loved
HBO,
it.
and maybe some of our listeners enjoyed that show as well. But another part of the Old West that is very interesting to me is the brothels and the madams who ran those brothels.
Yes, you were telling me some of those women are very, very interesting characters.
And they earned the nickname Soiled Doves.
Oh.
I know, right?
Is that like a dirty pigeon?
Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe that's like today's version of a dirty pigeon, Dylan. I don't know. We have a shipbird. Maybe we need a dirty pigeon.
Yeah, okay, a dirty pigeons.
Yeah.
So that's what the madams themselves were known as.
The madams and the women who worked for them.
Okay.
Yeah, they were called Soiled Doves, just working gals. And, despite the fact that, we live in a very puritanical nation, a lot of folks frown upon sex work. I think we're trying to move away from that as a society and see that, like, hey, you know what? This is the oldest profession in history, right? So maybe, I don't know, moving forward, people will be a little bit more accepting of it. But even back then in the Old West, I mean, these women, this was a valuable service they were providing.
Well, I mean,
and they made a lot of money.
if you go into these little frontier towns, you were guaranteed to have a bank, a general store, a mercantile,
A
a saloon, and a brothel.
Yep.
Those
And
and
often the saloon and the brothel were kind of one and the same, right?
yeah, and those are things you were guaranteed to find in town. And I would like to think that that is why people came to town,
You
right?
think so?
Yeah, because I mean, you want a little bit of loving.
Yeah. Well, these women were providing a valuable service to these cowboys and these frontiersmen.
Invaluable.
Exactly, right?
Oh
And they
gosh.
made a lot of money, and some of these women were very respected in their communities, right? Not frowned upon, not considered trash. I mean, these were businesswomen,
Yeah, and
hard-nosed businesswomen, and I respect that. So today we're going to be talking about some of the most famous soiled doves from the Wild West, and we have a few that started right here in Appalachia, Dylan, and maybe decided to head west. So buckle up, Dylan. Are you ready for a bumpy ride?
I want to get bumped.
Okay, for $10. Fanny Porter is the first madam we will be discussing today. She was born in England, and by 1888, she was living in San Antonio, Texas, where she began working as a prostitute that year when she was only 15 years old. Okay, so maybe that's not the coolest part of the story. After 5 years, she had saved enough money to open her own brothel at the corner of Durango and San Saba Streets, which was a pretty famous area of San Antonio, Dylan, known as the Sporting District.
Ooh.
Now, the sporting districts, as they were known, were for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and usually offered a lot of brothels and houses that offered all three of those things.
Games of chance and women.
I'll be your huckleberry. Fanny's establishment had a reputation for fair prices, attractive women, and honest dealing at the card tables, which was important.
Well, I could see if you want to go hang out, you don't want to get cheated. And if you're having a transaction for sex work, you want the best product available, I guess.
So one of her girls, this is pretty interesting, Dylan. Her name was Della Moore. She became a favorite of Kid Curry, who rode with the gang known as the Wild Bunch, led by Butch Cassidy and Harry Longabaugh, better known as the Sundance Kid.
Wow.
Besides catering to many known outlaws, some of whom used her establishment to pass along money stolen from their various crimes. So this was kind of a way to launder money, I suppose. Fanny Porter was well known for catering to lawmen. At this time, there was no national law enforcement apparatus at the time, so the closest thing was the privately owned Pinkerton National Detective Agency.
Yeah, and I think any Wild West story typically involves the Pinkerton detectives.
And those operatives frequented Porter's house as guests. So she's catering to both outlaws and the long arm of the law.
And I think that's a smart business practice.
She was well known among the outlaws for her discretion. She would keep quiet about their presence even when Pinkertons or other law enforcement were on the premises. The customers on the right side of the law didn't press her or her girls for information regarding these outlaws.
So everyone doesn't want to lose access to her business model.
Exactly.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, everybody, when you're there, it's sort of like Switzerland. It's like neutral territory, and everybody's just going to be cool. We're going to be like Fonzie. We're going to be cool, right? Flip the collar up.
That's funny that it just goes to show you the power of women, honestly.
Are you talking about the power of the pussy?
Well, I mean, I didn't want to phrase it like that, but
Meow.
there's a reason this is known as the oldest profession in the world ever.
Look, it's a commodity.
It's always been there, and there's always been sex workers. Always. They were in the caves serving it up. You know what I'm saying?
You think so?
Yeah.
What did they try? Like they just bartered their services for like a hide or
Basket of berries.
a good liver or something?
Yeah, you bring me the thigh of a mammoth, and I'll get you a little bit of this. You can get a little bit of sweat wet.
Why do I feel like you would be a soiled dove?
You think I would work in the establishment?
I think you could be a gigolo.
Oh, maybe.
You could be like Richard Gere in that movie, American Gigolo.
I would be a jiggly-o because I'm fat.
Well, there's that. But you know what? Maybe you offer snuggles
That's true.
to frontier women.
I have considered starting a snuggling service
I think you can make a lot of money.
where I just hold people tight and,
Whisper sweet nothings in their ear.
well, yeah, I can't massage them.
You talk
We
about like
figured that
eating
out.
a sandwich or something. Tell them all about that.
And I'll just tell them about my day.
Yeah.
It's really
Just in
boring.
a really quiet tone.
And they'll go right to sleep.
So this sporting district in San Antonio, Dylan, operated through World War I. There was even a book published for tourists on like the best spots to check out.
That's awesome.
But it went into a decline, which culminated in being shut down as America ventured into World War II. By then, Fanny had retired. A local legend has it that she was killed in a car accident sometime between 1937 and 1940, although whether such an event occurred is uncertain. Our next soil dove is Belle Brezing, and she was a madam right here in Appalachia, Dylan, in Lexington, Kentucky,
Ooh, wow.
who achieved national acclaim or notoriety, depending on your point of view, for a brothel she ran there in the late 19th and early 20th century. Now, many believe that Belle was the basis for the fictional Belle Watling character, who ran a similar establishment in Atlanta in Gone with the Wind. If you remember, Belle Watley was a good friend of Rhett Butler, and she was real kind-hearted and like would donate money to the boys to the war fund and whatever, but all the women in town kind of looked down on her.
Well, and I'm sure they would that would happen in real life during these women's lives. They're successful, they have a real business, but then the rest of the town would just, kind of be like, oh God. And then the men, when they're around their wives and such, would act like, oh Lord, knowing damn well they're sneaking down there to get a little something, something.
Belle first worked in a brothel in Lexington when she was 19 years old, and that would have been in 1879. The house had been the former residence of Mary Todd Lincoln and still stands today.
Wow.
Next time we go through Lexington, I feel like we need to search this out.
I believe so.
That'd be a fun tourist spot. When she opened her first house on her own, the location was unknown, and she was granted a pardon by Governor Luke Blackburn in 1882 for operating what the governor referred to as a bawdy house.
Oh, Bawdy.
Yeah, a bawdy house.
Nice.
I kind of like that. Another house she operated is now on the campus of Transylvania University, and that building serves as a women's locker room now. And if you remember from our Betty Gale Brown story that we covered out of Lexington, she was a student at Transylvania University. So a little
Nice.
bit of Mountain Murders trivia there for you. Belle became nationally known when the U.S. entered the Spanish-American War, and there were many Army encampments all along Lexington, and they were there like prior to being shipped out overseas or, shipped out to the war. Officers in the Army were mostly volunteers. A lot of them were from well-known, very established Eastern families from Boston, Philadelphia, some of those sort of, historied kind of old money colonial families, society families, and they passed along to their friends in society the pleasures available at Belle's.
Oh, man. See, this stuff sells itself. You don't even have to advertise. It's like drugs.
Word of mouth is the best marketing, they say, Dylan.
It's true.
Belle's earlier establishments were of a less expensive nature, known as dollar houses, but by 1898, she was a more luxurious madam, with a very well-known house on McGowan Street known as the $5 House. And McGowan is known as Northeastern Avenue today if you ever happen to pop into Lexington and want to take a cruise around. Belle's employees purchased their clothes in the best stores, although Belle herself enjoyed going to New York, where she would purchase very fashionable, couturier, designer outfits. She was known for her flashy dress. Her profession was well known throughout Lexington, but she encountered a little hostility in the town. And when the Army returned in 1915, it ordered the brothels closed as a means of trying to control these incoming troops.
What the hell, guys?
But after World War I, Lexington's houses were reopened, but Belle did not. She preferred her quiet retirement, and she died in 1940.
So basically, she's done made plenty of money, and she's just chilling.
She's just chilling.
Now, would you look down on someone who, in this modern day even, turn to a sex worker for sex? Would you look down on, I know how you feel about sex workers, basically. It's their body. They can do with it what they want as long as they don't harm others. And would you look down on people who engage in this type of behavior nowadays?
You mean like clients?
Yeah.
No.
Well, see, I don't know what the big deal is. And people can say, oh, the family, you're going to, what about, but people can go cheat with someone they work with, someone they met, someone they met at the gas station. You know what I mean? That's, if a person in their heart wants to cheat on their spouse, they're going to do it.
Well, consensual sex between adults, right? I don't care who you are. I don't care what your sexual preference is. If it's consensual sex between two adults, I'm not going to get into the morality aspects of whether it's an adulterous situation, whatever. That's not my business. That's for you to iron out in your personal life. I say, what was wrong with that? And if there happens to be an exchange of funds, some financial transaction as part of that, again, that's not my business, right?
It's those two adults.
It's not my business.
Right.
And I do feel like sex work should be legal. And I say that because I believe that it would be safer for sex workers. I believe it would be it would cut down on some sex trafficking.
It'd be safer for the clients as well.
I think you're going to have tax revenue come from that.
A shitload of
I
it.
think you keep people safe, getting them tested.
Cleaner.
Make sure that there's the hygienic elements involved, practicing safe sex, whatever. I don't see anything wrong with it.
You remove a lot of the abuse and the exploitation that is involved, also the criminal activities that typically are right around the edges of this sex work. It's safer for the client. It's safer for the sex worker. You're monitoring people. They're being tested monthly or bi-weekly.
People are not going to be exploited. You're not going to have the quote-unquote like street pimps.
No. You're not going to... You could... I mean, dude, this is as big... This would take so much off of our systems, just like legalizing marijuana. That it's a no-brainer as to why you wouldn't do it, right?
Exactly.
Even locally here, I'll kind of say right quick, we had an area that was known to have your modern day brothel.
Are you talking about Newport?
It's Newport,
Tennessee,
and
yeah.
it happens to be located in Cock County. Is that funny? Yes. Is that the reason it is named Cock County? Probably not. That's probably after something tied in with rooster fighting or something. Who knows?
Maybe named after someone who had the surname Cock.
Admiral Cock.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Were you going somewhere with that?
Be like Colonel Angus.
Oh my gosh. That's the best SNL skit.
Oh, well, what was interesting is it was well known in the area. I lived in Newport when I was a kid, and it was well known, and everyone was in on it. Like everybody was getting greased.
We have some listeners from the Newport area. They've sent us in cases. They've told us, hey, I'm from there. I know all about this area, whatever. Maybe they remember it as well, Dylan. I would be interested if some of our listeners from that area would write into mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com and let us know if you're familiar with this lurid sort of quote-unquote brothel that existed there.
But it was the same setup. It was no different. You had
like some trailers or something?
You would have a little... I've drove past them.
I bet you have.
Right? When as a younger single man, of course, I would not stop.
Never.
Because I do have a moral compass.
I'm sure you do.
So you would see a little hole-in-the-wall spot with a beer sign in the window. And there'd be 2 or 3 trailers up on the hill behind it where people would go and talk. And the sheriff knew about it. The cops knew about it. They would frequent the places as well. They would get, paid off essentially. And up to the point when they actually got all new administrators and sheriff and all that, they actually shut it down. And this went on for years in the modern day.
Oh, totally. So I grew up with a family of truckers. Like my dad's family, they're all truck drivers. My dad, my grandpa, my nana, and my papa were like a team that drove together, like all through the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. I mean, I remember being a kid and they were out on the road together, which is kind of how they chose to spend their semi-retirement, I guess. They decided, hey, we're going to do this together, and really enjoyed traveling. My uncle's a trucker, so you get the idea. I got a lot of truckers in my family. My great uncle, and I always heard stories. And my Nana called it the cat house. There's that cat house over there in Newport.
Yep.
The cat house.
There was multiple ones of them, and I just find it fascinating that, that
And
it
from what
even
I gather,
existed.
they serviced plenty of truckers.
I'm sure they
Plenty
did.
of truck drivers on I-40. They've been driving. They got to pull over because, they got to keep up with that logbook, got to get some rest, and decide to pull over, have a little leisure time in Newport.
And you'd have to wind your way back to the side roads and get down there by the river, on the river.
It was on the river?
Yeah, well, basically.
So it was like a nice view. How lovely. Okay, back to more discussion about our soiled doves. Dylan, are you finding this interesting?
I think it's very interesting, and I think these women are rather compelling characters.
We're going to talk about Maddie Silks, another Appalachian madam. She was from Fayette County, Pennsylvania. She spent most of her childhood in Indiana and began her career as a prostitute and madam in Springfield, Illinois. From Springfield, she headed west to the infamous Dodge City, and after working there for a short time, she was 29 years old. In 1875, she traveled to Georgetown, Colorado, pursuing the miners who were in search of gold.
Who? Pursuing the miners.
Pursuing the miners. She was following the money, Dylan.
So she was looking for some 49ers.
Perhaps.
Yep.
The minor 49er. Or maybe in this, it's the minor 69er. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe I just made a new move.
Oh. Okay. So, I got to say that these women, these sex workers, they were cleaner than most everyone around them. They bathed well, and their hygiene regimen was far superior to everyone around them.
Yeah, considering
They
the
bathed
time
more
period,
often.
absolutely.
They kept themselves clean. They were more. They knew more about their bodies and about stuff like that. So that's one thing to point out. They were all. Well, that's where the term whore bath comes from. For lack of a better word, you hit all the important parts, right?
Yeah. From what I understand, that's what a lot of rich celebrities do. The whore bath.
Now
There was some controversy that came out recently with Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Kristen Bell, where they talked about not bathing every day and that they rarely bathe their children.
okay.
And basically, we'll do a whore bath every day, but we don't shower every day kind of thing.
Okay.
And some folks were like, ew.
Well,
Ew.
I enjoy my daily shower.
I enjoy a good hot shower. So in Georgetown, she set up a brothel that was soon profitable. She also began a relationship with a guy named Court Thomason, and he was kind of a noted bad guy. When a rival madam began making some overtures to her man, Maddie fought a duel with her rival, Kate Fulton, the first known instance of a formal duel between two women in the United States.
Oh my God, this isn't Big Nose Kate, is it?
We're going to get into Big Nose Kate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're jumping ahead.
I'm sorry.
Court was generous with Maddie. He bought her expensive jewels, furs, of course, with her own money.
Damn.
Because his business ventures rarely worked out. But hey, he's trying to show her a good time, even if it's with her own money.
Well, I guess she's down for it.
He often looked to Maddie for money because he had all these get-rich-quick schemes. He also was a big drinker and gambler. And he was a lot better at drinking than he was gambling. And so she finally moved to her house, which was in Denver in 1877, and he followed her. Maddie's house was very successful in Denver for about 20 years before being taken over by a house that was called the House of Mirrors in 1898 that was owned by a madam named Jenny Rogers. So Jenny Rogers died in 1909, and Maddie purchased the House of Mirrors and operated it for another 20 years.
Damn.
So she's in this for the long haul. She made a lot of investments in Denver real estate that made her a very wealthy woman.
Wow.
So and that's what I think is cool about these women. They're very business savvy. They've got a good head on their shoulders. They sniff out the opportunities. They follow the money, and they make these investments like buying up real estate and really investing their money and making a big profit.
I'm going to assume that she created generational wealth that was given down her to her ancestors, and there are probably people to this day still profiting off of the fact that she made all these deals back then.
Now, this is just one of Maddie's brilliant business ventures, Dylan. She spent a 3-month period operating a bordello in Dawson City, Alaska, where she made $1 million, the equivalent in today's money.
Wow.
And she often used her money, her wealth, to provide food and shelter for the needy in the Denver, Colorado area. So again, we've got this, to use an unsavory phrase, whore with a heart of gold.
No, but this is a definition of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, so and oftentimes it seems in the stories you've told already, they start out as a prostitute at a very young age, and we have to consider
The times were different
people
then.
died around 30, 40 years old and all that stuff. So everything was, happened younger and earlier.
Excelled.
And but then it seems like almost instantly that they see the opportunity, for hey, I would do it like this. This is how I would do it, and blah blah blah. And they save their money and they take a chance on themselves, and I respect that.
In 1929, she was injured in a fall and had some complications that led to her death. She was later buried in Denver under the name Martha Reddy because she was married to a guy named Jack Reddy at the time. They called him Handsome Jack. But her grave is next to that of Court Thompson, who died in 1900 from food poisoning, supposedly from eating some spoiled oysters.
What would my Wild West name be?
Dylan, I really don't know.
Would it be Big Head Pete?
Is that what you think it would be?
What do you think it would be?
I don't know. What do you want it to be? I think Derailed Dylan would stick because maybe you were like a train robber.
Oh. Yeah, and I literally derailed the trains and then robbed them.
With your big head. All you had to do was stand with your big head aimed at the train, and they would immediately hit their brakes.
Yeah, or I could
rob the train.
Make my way to the engineer.
And you headbutt him.
And I just engage him in pointless conversation that makes no sense to him, to where the point at where he's so distracted that the train derails.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Wow, you really brought that around. Thank you.
You know how to fry my brain, bro.
It's
I'm
true.
sure you could do it to a train engineer. Dylan, you mentioned Big Nose Kate. And a lot of folks know her because she was the companion of which famous Wild West guy?
You know it's shit.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Doc Holliday.
Yes.
Shit. I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Brain fart.
You love Tombstone, and then here you are. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I do.
Well, one of the most known, famous soil doves from the Wild West, still kind of popular today. I mean, a lot of folks know Big Nose Kate. This could be because she's forever linked to one of the most intriguing characters from that time, as we mentioned, Doc Holliday. She was one of the Wild West sporting ladies. There was a saloon named in her honor, still one of the most visited sites in Tombstone.
Wow.
I would love to go out west and visit Tombstone. I mean, I've been out west, but I would like to go to some of these famous places.
No, I would totally like to see some of these ruins, just like ancient ruins, right? Some of these things left over from the Wild West, and some of these characters were like bigger than life. In the when you dig into Western history.
Well, as with many of these notorious women of her time, there is some confusion and speculation about Kate's early years. During her life, it was even said that her father was the physician to Maximilian I back in the family's homeland of Slovakia.
Wow, she came a long way.
There's little evidence to support this claim. Now, what is known about her family is that they immigrated to Iowa when she was just a girl, and that both parents had died by the time she turned 15, and that is when she left town for St. Louis. Or St. Louis, I guess, depending on what you want to say. It's widely believed that she graduated from a grammar school in St. Louis, and she was incredibly intelligent. She also developed a love of freedom early on that would never die. With few opportunities for brilliant independent women at the time, she turned to the sporting life and apparently never looked back or apologized for it. Kate made her way through many of the known frontier cities, leaving after getting caught up with the law, even being arrested at one point for assault and battery. Okay, I have to say, Big Nose Kate is kind of my type of woman here. She's fiery, she's sassy, she don't take no shit.
Well, I think a woman would have to be in this environment.
I think I would have thrived during this time.
I've told you before, you would have made a great madam.
I would make a great madam today.
It's true.
When working in Dodge City, she first encountered the Earp family while under the employ of James Earp's wife, Nellie. It is believed by many that Kate was responsible for introducing Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday to each other some years later in Texas. Wyatt would later write an article about his life for a San Francisco newspaper and refer to her as Big Nose Kate for her strong, bold character rather than the size of her nose. But that nickname took hold, and people are still talking about her today.
So she didn't really have a big nose.
She didn't really have a big nose at all.
She just had a big personality.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do have a big nose, and I do have a big personality, so maybe I can just be like Big Nose Heather.
You would kick so much ass. Would you slap the women around if they weren't doing right?
No.
Yeah. So you would control your empire through care.
I would be like Dolly Parton in the best little whorehouse in Texas, Dylan.
We're trying to help you be the best.
I'd be like, no burping, no slurping, no tattoos visible. Even though I'm covered in them.
That's a pretty good Dolly you do.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. I liked it.
But I do love that movie, and I know all the songs.
So you would rule through working together and maximizing profits for all.
Well, yeah, that would be the big thing. We just want to be here and make money.
That's right. Man.
We're going to talk a little bit about Pearl Hart. She is best known as one of the most fearless female bandits of the Wild West, Dylan. And while she led this impressive life of crime related to robberies, her initial walk on the wild side was when she joined the sporting life and became associated with some other rough characters. Now, as far as we can tell, Pearl was born in Ontario, Canada, to quite religious parents, but she was seduced by an older man when she was just 16 years old and started to make her way from one town to another and into the American frontier. When finding themselves at the Chicago's World Fair in 1893, Pearl enjoyed Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and became obsessed with the perceived lifestyle of the American frontier. And what's not to like about it?
Yeah, I would say it's intoxicating in a way.
Though she would go back to Ontario at least twice when pregnant, she abandoned her children and devoted her life to obtaining the glamour and excitement of the Wild West world. After freeing herself from her abusive and degenerate husband and leaving both of her children with her parents in Canada, Pearl ended up in Colorado where she took up work as a prostitute. The sporting life was far from Pearl's endgame, though. In 1898, she partnered up with a miner named Joe Boot. Now, is that not one hell of an Old West name? Joe Boot.
Joe Boot.
To undertake what is considered to be the last stagecoach robbery in American history.
Wow.
While her dreams of living the cowboy life may have seemed to be coming true for Pearl, and the heist was a success, the pair were shortly arrested, and Pearl became the first female prisoner in the Yuma Territorial Prison. Pearl was sentenced to 5 years and Boot to 30, though he managed to escape 1 year into his sentence and was never seen again.
Boot got up out of there.
Joe Boot kicked it. He kicked it and left. So when she was incarcerated, she built a reputation for herself. Because she was the only female in shackles, she was given her own cell and quite a bit of freedom. She met with tourists, signed autographs, posed for photos, and charmed every guard in the prison. She became so popular that when she was supposedly pregnant just a year into her sentence, she was released, but no child was ever born.
So she basically talked her way out of there.
Yep. Pearl hadn't given up, though. Her story sort of went full circle. Before quietly fading out of the limelight, she joined up with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show.
Well.
So pretty interesting, huh?
Man, Pearl sounds like something else.
Yeah.
Damn, she's robbing, riding, shooting.
Well, those are a few of the Wild West sporting ladies, the soiled doves, as they are called.
I'd prefer to call them sporting ladies.
Sporting ladies?
Yeah. I don't call them soiled doves.
Mm-hmm.
Soiled doves.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't call them that.
I'm going to call you a dirty pigeon from now on.
They're not soiled.
Well, they're not,
geniuses.
But maybe that was just a euphemism of sorts. I don't know.
Oh, that just gives everybody else around a right to look down on them in some way, even though they're being, making money hand over fist.
They're probably more successful than, like, the majority of the town.
Guarantee it.
Yep.
Everyone else is just getting up just enough, to barely make it.
Wearing their fancy New York designer dresses and big fluffy hats with feathers and shit.
And I think that's very fascinating. They often bought tangible assets with their ill-begotten money, as you might say, and they'll probably pass it along to their kids, pass it to their kids, and there's someone right now still living off that booty money from back in the West.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Wonder whatever happened to Joe Boot.
Joe Boot got up out. He probably got shot in like a Mexican saloon or some shit.
You think so?
Nobody ever knew.
I love all of the nicknames that were given to these folks.
The only other thing I would say is like the 1920s gangster nicknames. They're the only other set of people who have nicknames that come close to the Wild West.
You think so?
Would you? Yeah. Babyface Nelson? I mean, come on.
He was pretty handsome, actually. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying they had the greatest nicknames.
Well, they did.
But the West did as well.
Right. I mean, some of these nicknames were really cool.
Well, thank you for that. I know it's kind of a loose episode. Heather's in mid-preparation for a live show.
Yeah, I wanted to give the people what they wanted to.
It's going to be a live sex show. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be.
If only they could see my face right now.
I got her, guys. Okay. I got her because she just was like, boom.
Well, I wanted to get our listeners something here for the midweek, and I thought this would be a fun series of persons to cover on Offbeat. Especially since, like I said, two of them hailed from Appalachia. We had Pennsylvania and Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I would like to hear more about these ladies.
Would you?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll throw together another episode, Dylan.
I think they're very interesting characters, and I think they provided a necessary service for mankind.
All right. Well, don't forget, live show coming up on Friday. I will get it out today, Dylan. I don't know what my problem has been lately. Just getting all tongue-tied. Friday, live show coming up at the Lazy Hiker in Sylva, North Carolina. Showtime is 6:30. There will be food and drinks available, which is going to, just make it even better. You get dinner and a show. We're going to play a live audience participation game. Get to know our crowd a little bit. It's going to be super fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
We got some cool merch for sale. If you want to grab a Mountain Murders t-shirt, we have 4 designs available.
Yes, and they're incredible. If you haven't seen if Heather hasn't put them anywhere, you're going to be blown away by these.
Put them anywhere? Do you mean like on social media?
Yeah. They know what I meant.
I don't know, Dylan. You got to finish a complete thought, babe.
Yeah, you just wait. You just wait till I go on that meal and derail the whole process.
Yeah.
Yep, so we can't wait to see you. Tickets available on brownpapertickets.com. And there's an event on Facebook you can find as well. If there are any left, we're not sure if there will be. You can get them at the door. You'll be taking a chance with that.
Roll the dice. Take a chance. Come out on Friday nights. We will be back this weekend with a true crime case for you. And we hope that you all have a safe and happy week. And I don't know what, Dylan. Don't derail the conversation. Do you have any advice?
Any
last words?
You did it all. You done it. There's nothing else to be done.
Okay.
You've said it all.
Drop an email to mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want some extra content, there's always Patreon where you can support the show, access bonus episodes. We have hundreds of episodes over there. Again, that's patreon.com/mountainmurderspodcast. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, Dylan.
Yes, and I must say thank you to James because he just keeps upping his support, dude. He's blowing us away on Patreon. Thank you so much, James.
Okay. We'll be back on Sunday. Hope you guys have a fantastic week.